And take a seat. We're going to go on ahead and commence with the workshop. We have somewhat of a time constraint today where we have a regular board meeting that begins at 6 o'clock. So we're going to try to squeeze this in as much as we can between 5 and 6. Going to try to give as many citizens as possible a chance to speak. Just a second, I'm going to hand it off to Commissioner Kessler. But what I want to ask is, what we're going to do is whenever we go to the point of citizens to be heard, normally we give everyone 3 minutes. And you know, if we were in a regular board meeting, we would have a lot more flexibility of time than we do now. So what we're going to do is, whenever we go to, if those who wanted to speak has filled out a speaker card, whenever we go to speak, we're going to try to give 2 minutes for each person to speak, to give as many people a chance to speak as possible. Also, I wanted to ask that if for the restraints of time, that if someone has already stated your position or basically the same position, just try to sum it up as quick as you can if you agree with what others have said. That way we can get as many people as we can a chance to speak within the time frame. At this time, Commissioner Kessler was the commissioner that asked for this workshop. I'm going to ask Commissioner Kessler to state his position, and then I'm going to after that I'm going to ask Ms. Ivanhoe Carroll to speak, and then after that we'll open it up to citizens and then board discussion. Commissioner Kessler.
Thank you, Chairman Harden. And well, I expected more of a turnout tonight. There's a few empty seats. So this deals with the agenda item that I put on the agenda, and it deals with an animal control workshop. So just by a show of hands, how many people have read this agenda item? Oh, good. That makes me feel good. And those of you who hadn't, I'm going to read it to you. So the statement of issue, it says, this workshop's objective is to allow for the Board of County Commissioners discussion of the current status of Wakulla County animal control and to allow board and citizen input. And the background says changes have taken place over the past years that have resulted in a change of policy, in my opinion, of the board's oversight over the animal control, and a change in the way animal control is functioning. And under analysis, it says the board has the opportunity to review our past and current policies regarding management of animal control, and the board discussion, in my opinion, should include the various areas of concern: economic impact to the county's budget, liability exposure, health and condition of animals for which the county is responsible, and compliance with state of Florida statute and other areas relating to animal control in Wakulla County. And then in large print, there's the notation that the board does not take action during workshops, but if there is a consensus of the board to move in a certain direction, that it can so advise staff, and that would come back to the board for their vote. But no voting will take place at this workshop. So why did I put this on the agenda? To discuss animal control. And as a county commissioner, I think that we all as county commissioners have an obligation to address concerns of our fellow colleagues. I had broached the subject a couple of times, my concern specifically in areas of change of policy and liability issues, but didn't get a real discussion on it. And maybe we can have that tonight. So that's my desire, is to have, I did get a lot of emails, and I want to say right now, I started to try to answer. They all came in this morning, forwarded by staff. So many of you who wrote the county commission, there was like, I don't know, 16 emails that came in, at least to my email box, and I have not had a chance to answer but one or two, because this is a commission night meeting, and we have a considerable amount of work during the day. So I'll catch up with those and ask for your understanding on that. But in those few that I did read, I did read a lot of things that was sort of based on misinformation. I'm not proposing that we get rid of animal control. I'm not proposing that we get rid of anything. It's not here. It's not in the agenda item if you read it. So the people that wrote a lot of that emails, where possible, I will continue to communicate with them and try to have them understand that this is the workshop, that's what I put out there for discussion, and those are my concerns, especially as it relates to change of policy, which I perceive. So I guess that's my introduction to the agenda item. The change of policy, you know, as I understood it, animal control was set up in a certain way to function. It has sort of drifted into a more robust performance. I think that should have been a policy issue that the board should have had some say in.
Can you explain that a little further?
Yeah,
When you say
basically.
robust performance, what do you mean?
Right. So I'm talking about going into the adoption. The adoption.
Okay.
No, I can.
Yeah.
So we can try that. I'm just trying to be
Just,
careful with words.
hold it
We have
down,
some
please.
attorneys in the room. Yeah, so to change it from an animal control facility into what is appearing more and more as adoption facility, that is of concern to me. It may be of concern to other board members. That's one of my primary reasons for bringing this workshop forward. The other is dealing with, if that's where the board wants this to go, I think the board should take a vote on it, understand the ramifications of it, and go in that direction and formally endorse it. And if the board wants to acquire more information to find out what would be the agreements, what would be in place in dealing with this new arrangement, then I think the board also should be looking at that and voting yes or no whether to go in that direction.
You are aware of what David is moving forward with, right? Did the board vote on that to do the RFP for the...
That we'll be bringing that to the board here shortly. We've got an RFPs getting ready to hit the streets for adoption services.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are things that are changing, but during this past year or so, or longer, there has been no position taken by the board, and there has been no formal agenda item brought to the board to say, hey, listen, we're going in this different direction. And that is of concern to me, because policy should be a board issue, execution should be an administration issue.
Have you seen the numbers that David showed us? Are you satisfied with the results, even if the policy wasn't codified by the board? Have you seen the results?
When you say results, what do you mean?
The number of animals not euthanized?
Oh, I had seen a figure of that, and we're always very happy when animals aren't euthanized. But at the same token, this county has a responsibility and a liability to make sure that those animals are processed properly. And so it's not just a matter of getting them out of our facility and then not euthanized, but making sure that we are, one,
I mean, that is the main goal, though, right, of animal control?
No, that was not the main goal of animal control.
I mean, I'm sorry, not when I say animal control, I'm speaking in more general terms. I mean, in the main goal of the county handling stray animals or unwanted animals, the main goal is to get them placed in a home and not euthanized, right? I mean, we at least agree on that.
Well, I think that there's...
Commissioner Kessler, and Commissioner Merritt, you know, in respect of time, I'd like for us just to go in and let Ms. Ivanhoe Carroll give a quick overview of animal control, and then do allow the citizens to speak who are, and then after that, it will be open again for the commissioners.
Well, I think that the reason why I called this was to allow the commissioners to have some discussion. I mean, if we need to have another workshop where we
want to allow
have
the
2 hours...
citizens a chance to speak here that came here tonight, Mr. Commissioner Kessler.
I understand that, but then we're going to have another commission workshop, if you so choose, to actually have the board discuss this issue.
You want to see how much time we have left?
Yeah, well, let's see how much
So-
time,
Can I ask just a clarifying
Go ahead.
question? Commissioner Kester, you pointed out a change in policy. Is there a policy somewhere that prohibits animal control from acting as an adoption facility? 'Cause as I read section 6.012 of our ordinance, it states, before any animal may be adopted from the animal shelter, provision shall be made for such animal, and it goes on with a whole list of things they have to comply with. But I'm asking because I haven't found anything that prohibits them from being an adoption facility.
There's nothing, I believe you're correct, but I think also if you look at the history of animal control, and especially as it was established under the prior, before the county assumed responsibility for it when it was in the hands of the sheriff, there was a reason why they did not get into adoptions. And that has to be appreciated. And there's a liability issue why they did not get into adoptions, and that has to be appreciated. And there is a cost factor, and that has to be appreciated. And that's the discussion on those three levels that I'm looking for.
Ms. Ivan Carroll, at this time I'd like for you to come up and give a short presentation on the animal control and what it involves.
Paige, make sure it's turned on,
Make sure it's on, Paige.
the remote. Should be on. You can aim it at him. Am I holding my mouth right?
I see a lot.
Okay. Which button do I hit? Oh, well, I was hitting the wrong button. Oh, okay.
What'd you
Can we
shoot?
just manually go through it and I'll just like look at you? Okay.
What are you talking about? It's her fault.
Where do you want me to start? Okay, we ready?
Yes,
Can you
ma'am,
hear
you
me?
go ahead. Yes,
Can
ma'am.
everybody hear me back there? All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Ivanhoe Carroll. I'm your Director for the Division of Wakulla County Animal Control. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. I am delighted that the spotlight is on the animals of our county and on this shelter. I'd like to thank the audience, the people in red who are here tonight in support of the animals of the county and supporting our little shelter. The intent of this, I intend to show that this division is run professionally, transparently, and with a great deal of passion. And my hope is that one of these images and one of these words will affect people in the audience and encourage them to do something good for the animals. Because the reason we've been so successful, I got to do everything now. The reason we're so successful is because the main focus is it's all about the animals. It's about the animals. So let's go to the next slide. Oh, dang. Which one did I push? This one? On the right. We should have practiced.
There you go.
Okay.
Just tell, she can flip it for you, Ivanhoe.
What's that?
Let Paige flip it for you. That'll
Okay.
be fine.
I don't mind. Okay, here we go. Go to the next one. Okay, this shows our structure, how we do what we do. Before, we were part of the Sheriff's Office, and the Adoption Center was shared mutually by CHAT and the Animal Control. In 2009, we changed the structure. We were sent to the Board of County Commissioners. I report to the Fire Chief, the County Administrator, and ultimately to you. Okay. These are our hard assets. We have 3 full-time employees, 1 part-time. We have an old building, 3 trucks. We provide service to the county 24/7, 365. Go ahead. And we couldn't do it without the volunteers. We have a dedicated group of people who have done 35 events since June, fundraising and adoption events, and who are working really hard. So we'd like to say thank you to you guys. The next one. There are 3 components of running this division: field operations, which is animal control. We enforce the Wakulla County Animal Ordinance 08-10, and the Florida state statutes. Another part is shelter management. We have to take care of the animals that are in our care. And then we also run an office where people have an opportunity to come in if they've lost their animals or they need advice, problems with their neighbors, spay-neuter information, you name it. Animal control is an essential government service. We respond to complaints for animals in need, animal breeders, shelter, stray, unwanted animals. We protect the animals from the people and the people from the animals. Okay. We're a long way from what it used to be the dog catcher, and the animal shelter has replaced the term pound. Animal control, our officers are certified by the Florida Animal Control Association. We're governed by Wakulla County policy and also by policy for our animal control and standard operating procedures. We all have the top 2 trainings. Those are both from the Florida Animal Control Association, and some of us have some of the other ones. But nothing can get you ready for how tough the job is. We always hear, gosh, how do you people do that? I just love animals too much. I couldn't do what you do. Well, that's the sad irony, is that we do love them. So it's a cruel irony that we have to do that. Go ahead. I don't know if you can see, these are some of the pictures of things that happen, things that we see out in the public. We see animals that are hurt by other animals, animals that have not had care provided, lack of care. We see a lot of irresponsible pet owners. Okay. Sometimes we wish that we could take the owners to the pound and not the dogs. We run an open shelter, which is different than a limited intake shelter. We take in everything. Nothing's turned away. A lot of times the animals are pregnant, or go back, sorry, that are pregnant or have contagious diseases, lack of grooming, lack of care, or just plain mean. That one on the bottom right is in run 7, and he'll eat your face off. Next one. If you've never been to the shelter, this is your animal shelter. Built in the 1970s, concrete block building. It's cold in the winter, hot in the summer. The roof leaks. The floors hold water. It's really hard to disinfect and keep our animals healthy, but I can tell you it's the cleanest it's ever been. Okay. So shelter management. Food is donated. The county doesn't buy it. The medicines for the sick animals that come in are donated. The county doesn't spend a penny on that. We contract with the WCI for daily inmate labor, and we try to get every animal out every day. And we're just responsible for, bite quarantines, exposure to rabies, and then sometimes we have to hold animals longer if they're tied up in a court battle. Okay. So inventory management, we got to know where our animals are, what they look like. So we use PetPoint, which is a free inventory management software. It has the ability to compile a bunch of data. Every animal has a unique number and a photograph, as well as every person and every agency that we work with has a unique number too. So where do all these animals come from? Last calendar year, we took in 2,287 animals. 55% of these are stray. That means they came in through the drop box, which is an after-hours kennel, where people can drop animals that they don't want anymore or that they found. The red number is 22%. That's seized. That means the animal control officer went out and put their hands on them out in the field, brought them in through trapping or just catching them with kitty food. 20% is owner surrender. These are people who voluntarily take their animals to the shelter because they don't want them anymore. Some of these are reasonable reasons, and then some of them are really stupid, when they got a new puppy and they turned in a 10-year-old blind poodle because they don't want it anymore. Next one. Outcome, same year, 63% went to rescue, 22% were euthanized. 14% were actually lost and returned to their owners. Okay. So what happens to those animals that are not reclaimed? County ordinance says in 5 days they become property of the county. So after temp testing and looking at the animal, if it appears healthy and no behavior issues are noted, then pictures are taken. This is where the volunteers come in. We have professional photographers and amateur videographers. They come out and post them as available for adoption or rescue. Special cases get special attention, obviously, if it's an older dog or has heartworms or a table mange condition. We don't adopt to the public. When Chat and Animal Control split, it was agreed that they would handle the adoptions. They were given first right of refusal. That left us with a lot of healthy, perfectly adoptable animals that were at risk for being put to sleep. So that's when we started really working hard to get these animals out of here. There was no reason not to. But we worked with different rescue groups and other adoption centers to achieve a positive outcome. Well, why don't we adopt to the public? A lot of people ask us that. Well, right now there's nothing that says that we can't. As a matter of fact, on the Florida Animal Control Association website, they strongly recommend that every animal control or protection agency should maintain one. So what's rescue? If you can't find a home for it locally, you might find a home for it somewhere else. We move them to different audiences. There are other places that have strict spay-neuter laws, and they don't have a pet overpopulation problem. Okay, I'll speed up. But it's important to know that with every rescue group, we fill out an application, they're approved. We verify with their veterinarians and animal control agencies. Okay, next one, Zeke. Everybody knows Zeke. He was sick and left for dead. Sometimes the story of the struggle is what people want to hear, and it raises animal awareness, and that's what we're all about. Even Governor Scott wants to hang out with Zeke. Everybody loves his story.
Zeke must be a Republican.
What? So who pays for rescue? Each group is different. Some rescue groups have their own veterinarians that they choose to use in their location. Others want theirs sterilized and fully vaccinated before they leave. And when that happens, Can Care is the one who's been fronting that money to them and then is reimbursed. So it doesn't cost the county anything. There's no law against releasing an unaltered animal to rescue. It's only when the animal is adopted. That's the difference. And the reason that so many animals are pulled from our shelter at no cost is because they are vaccinated, because they know that they're going to be healthy. So we find a place for them. How do we get them there? We partner with all kinds of people. We put dogs on planes. Bonnie burns up the road in her van, taking them. She just got back from Fanning Springs just now. So we got to get them there. That doesn't cost the county anything. That's a pretty sad statement. If we could just get everybody to spay neuter, we wouldn't have to euthanize 10,000 animals tomorrow. But 22%, this is what happened to them. Quickly, the next slide is the 8 years before I got here. The ET rate, that's short for euthanasia, went from 58% to 68%. So at one time, almost 7 out of 10 animals were put to sleep. Next slide. This shows from fiscal year 2007-2013. You can see where it really went down and was consistent. And this is when the volunteers really started working, and we got it down to, in that fiscal year, to 21%. Thank you. Okay, everybody go to the next slide. Go through the next one. These are euthanasia reasons. This is why they were put to sleep. You can see most of them are health or behavior. Some of them are owner requested. Somebody wants to put their animal to sleep. Then we started keeping track of feral cats later in there. But the really cool number is the one for space on the right-hand side. We went down from almost 400 to only 47 animals were put to sleep because there was no other option. All this talk about ETN makes us sad, so we thought we'd put a funny up there. It's my favorite one. Everybody's asking what's going to happen to the adoption center. The county is working to, we're just about through with it, to put it out for a request for proposals to see if someone else wants to run the adoption center. If no one's selected, then Animal Control may very well come back to ask permission to do that. It's important to know that everybody can do something. You know, if you can't adopt, foster. That's a picture of Diesel, who was on his best behavior. He was just an ordinary dirt road dog. You know, he's neutered, microchipped, heartworm negative, and he is minding his manners on his way. And there's contact information if anybody.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
want to, in respect of time, I want to go and ask the first citizen to come up and speak, Mr. Walter Roberts. And like I said, we're going to have 2 minutes to, if you will, try to.
Well, I support the animal shelter fully. We have adoption things there at the store. We have donation boxes. They operate where they don't have enough for the cleaning and stuff like that, and we donate, and some of the other businesses donate to try to keep it afloat because they work on such a close budget. But they do a remarkable job. I have cats around the store. I've always called, and they come and trap the cats. I had a lady rent right across from the Methodist church, and we allowed her to have a cat. She started feeding the cats, and we got a picture of 35 cats when they started feeding them. This gets out of control, people feeding the cats and don't get them up there and don't take care of them. And the animal control work very closely with me. I appreciate it, and I certainly don't want to see nothing happen to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I really want to inject here that this is not about getting rid of animal control, and that should be a clear point here. That if people think that this workshop is designed to get rid of animal control, I'll be the first one to say no, that's not what this agenda item is about. So we all appreciate that we need animal control. We may even be required to have animal control. But that's not what this workshop is about. We all care about animal control.
Okay, our next citizen is Fran Council.
I'm Fran Council, and I wanted to say that I extend way back before there ever was a chat. And I was in on all of those meetings that talked about the necessity of animals needing someone to help take care of them. And as a point of some sort of interest, I guess I was the swing vote that voted chat into existence. And I think they've done a very good job. I know that I'm one of the people that donate stuff to the animal shelter. And I'm out there quite a few times because I tote it up and bring it to them. And I have never seen an animal be mistreated. I've never seen an animal that wasn't getting little chirps and animal biscuits. I carry them animal biscuits all the time. I've seen them work at all hours of the day and night trying to help the animals. And I believe that sometimes there's an axiom that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I believe that that's probably what we should think of the most, because they have done an outstanding job. They have had major concern personally for every animal that comes into that shelter. And they know them all individually, which is not the same for a lot of other shelters that I can speak of in this area. So I would highly encourage you to give them all the support that they need, because they have done you an outstanding job. And even if you had somebody else come in to take over animal control, you would have potentially a greater liability because you wouldn't have the control over it that you have by having animal control under this commission. I thank you.
Thank you. So, Laura Edwards.
Commissioners, good to see you. Thank you for having me up here. I'm going to refer to my notes a lot because I'll get sidetracked. But first of all, I believe animal control is doing the absolute best they can with what they have. We all know that our animal control officers do the best they can with what they have with the limited resources. It's a well-known fact that the euthanasia rates have dropped significantly excuse me, in Wakulla County over the past year when rescues started to pull animals from our shelter. So I'm really not sure why we're questioning their ability to be able to continue to do this. The county saves money by letting rescues pull animals from the shelter, but mainly, of course, it's to the welfare of these animals whose lives are being saved. I've not forgotten about our adoption center. I'm in full support of having an adoption center for our county, an adoption center that works together with animal control and rescues for the welfare of animals. Let our very own animal control run it. Let a separate entity run it, but do it together and with the #1 goal of saving animals. It's not a contest. There's no hidden agenda. This is about saving the lives of as many innocent animals as we can. That's it. And we all need to work together to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Melanie Holman. Miss Melanie Holman.
How many more you got, Richard?
Yeah.
I'm here, on behalf of ECA Animals. We're a rescue group that has pulled from Wakulla County in the last year. And I have a letter. I'm going to read it because I'll get tongue-tied otherwise. We are a Florida nonprofit no-kill rescue organization located in Tallahassee. We've been in existence since 2005. We give a lifetime commitment to each cat and dog that comes into our program. Our main goal is to place all the pets we take into permanent homes, and if we cannot do that, we do not kill or abandon any pet in our care. We have taken cats and dogs from Wakulla Animal Control, and we have always had good experiences in dealing with staff as follows. Before allowing us to take a pet, staff made the determination that we are a legitimate rescue organization that cares for and finds homes for unwanted or abandoned cats and dogs. Prior to each transfer, staff asked questions as to our ability, willingness to take and care for any cat or dog. We have found Animal Care and Control to be interested in and proactive about ensuring a proper placement for animals in their care that are released to us and other rescues. And if you have any other questions, the president of our group would be happy to speak with you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Miss Wendy Young. Miss Wendy Young.
I was not under the impression that anybody wanted to get rid of animal control. I just want to make that clear.
Right, thank
What
you.
I did think, and reason I'm here, maybe someone wanted to do away with the adoption portion, or had some issues with the rescue doing it. I know Chat did it for a while, and Cause I Can facilitates adoptions and rescue pulls now. And looking over this, I was a little confused because, as someone pointed out earlier, there's a part 6.012, no animal, blah, 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 which is dangerous, shall be placed for adoption. So I thought there was an adoption policy in place, but I guess that there's not, or maybe it's just that you want a particular adoption contract for the county rather than relying on a rescue to facilitate these adoptions.
Okay, so with regard to the dangerous dog,
Well, I mean, it just said something about being for adoption in the shelter.
we have an ordinance in place.
Mhm.
Yeah. And, but it's my opinion that we also had a change of direction in our animal shelter without the policy being established by the board. If the board wants to do a change of policy, then the board should be voting on it. That's the issue I had.
So other than the,
Let me try to clarify so we'll have something to actually talk about. Your change in policy you're talking about is when Chat left the animal control shelter, having Kuzikan or whoever, giving the dogs to them for them to, is that the policy
Well,
you're talking about?
before Chat left, I mean, there was a different procedure going on in animal control a year or more before Chat left.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Ricky, I just
that's okay.
trying to figure out what we're talking about.
Yeah, so that changed the direction of our animal control, okay?
In what way? If you could just-
Well, the way I understood it is we had a relationship between an adoption center, which was Chat at the time, and we had the animal control.
Okay.
Then it appeared to me, and I don't have access to, it appeared to me that animal control became more involved with adoptions other than going through Chat, okay?
Via Kuzikan and other agencies
Whoever,
like that. Okay.
whoever.
But not adopting them out themselves.
Right, and this opened the door for me
Okay.
to several levels, one of liability, that I think the county has to be clear in how we operate, what our liability exposure is, and what we're taking on.
From your agenda item, then, you're not stating that you're either opposed or not opposed to the current policy, how it's being operated now, which is obviously successful. Your issue is that it wasn't codified by the board.
Exactly.
Okay.
If I may add to that,
I think my time's up.
sorry, you started a good conversation.
I just want to say I'm in full support of the shelter staff and Cause I Can, and thank you, everybody, for what you do.
I think the important thing for us to discuss and decide here is, you know, if there's something that the animal control is doing that's in violation of our ordinance. You know, there's various aspects of county government that we do not set the policy. You know, we don't tell the fire chief when he's got to send people to training and who he's got to send to training, and so, you know, that's our role, is to set the policy, and we have a county administrator and we have staff that's going to make sure they execute that policy. And so I think that's the important thing here, that policy should be able to change without it coming to this board, and we have to micromanage every aspect of it. The question is, are they doing a good job? Are they not doing a good job? Are they following policy? Or they're not following policy? To me, that's where our role is. We certainly need to measure the risk. I agree with you on that. But if we're comfortable with the risk and they're doing a good job and they're following the ordinance, following policy, we need to let them do their job.
Next citizen speech is going to be Rayanna Edens.
Hi, my name is Rayanna Edens. I've been a resident in the county for 12 years, and I've also done a lot of volunteering at the shelter on Saturdays, cleaning kennels. They just don't have enough, but that's fine. I enjoy doing it. I've done many transports for Bonnie into rescue. Just a few weeks ago, took one up to Millionaire. Can't tell you how fulfilling it is to see a dog from our shelter, just a hound, flying off in the air, going to a home, a forever home to be loved. Mm-hmm. And I am 100% behind Ivanhoe, Mark, Bonnie, and all the rescue groups that help get all our animals out. They deserve a forever home always.
Amen. Mr. Donnie Crum. Donnie Crum.
Thank you. It's been quite some time. You know, you can tell the color of my hair. I've been around a long time. I was actually worked for the office about 40 years, and there's a lady behind me, Clifton, that we know when the animal control that we knew today was a road and bridge truck with a cage in the back, and I'm not sure what kind of care they took care of the dog after we finally caught him and put him in the cage and took him to the, I guess, a garbage dump. But I don't know what happened to the animal, but we have certainly progressed since then, and every aspect of the way is improved. And I don't know who designed this program today, that we're working on it today, but kudos to those people. I assume it's your staff. And so I was involved when we used to euthanize 7 out of 10 dogs, and there's no other way. So we learned every step of the way. We've gotten better. I believe the county's got better with their dealing with the animals. I don't think we can avoid our best ourselves of not dealing with animals, because we're responsible for them. If they bite, liability-wise, you're going to get sued if you take care of the animals, if you don't take care of the animals, because this government, you're insured, and there's lawyers. And so we're going to be sued. But kudos to the way we're doing it now. I support it 100%, and thank you for doing it.
That's Janice Eakin. Janice Eakin. Janice Eakin.
Okay, I didn't get the memo about wearing red. Okay, my name is Janice Eakin, and I'm the president of CHAP. I prepared this 3-minute statement, which a lot has been said, and I don't want to be saying the same thing, so I'm going to try to go through it without repeating so others can speak too. Just to start, CHAT has always been a community-based organization. It always has, and it still is. We're still alive and well, a nonprofit organization. As our role changes in this county, our focus is going to shift from managing the adoption center to community projects. Our first project one of our first projects that we're doing, Walter Lee, I think will like, and that is our trap, neuter, spay or neuter, and release program. And you'll be seeing a lot about this in the paper and on the web, and so you can catch up with that. But I think that will, one, help with the nuisance of these animals. Hopefully the more we can neuter the fewer will end up at the shelter. So there's pros and cons of that. We're going to hear from the bird people not liking it, which blows my mind. I don't understand. If we're not having more baby kittens, it seems like we'd have less birds killed. But maybe my math, I don't know. Okay, so, but we, chat, want to ring the alarm to you guys. I know it is unfortunate that we weren't aware what's going on with an RFP. That's good. We would like to encourage you to put out an RFP that is reasonable and effective. I will tell you, this wasn't in my speech, and I don't want to rehash, but the one that chat was presented with was not reasonable. It was not doable. No one could financially survive under what chat was presented, and that's why we could no longer do it. We spent over $100,000 every year running that adoption center. So keep that in mind. We're recommending you take 3 options: an RFP, let animal control be the adoption center, or establish a formal process for the rescue groups. The rescue groups have that passion, but make sure there's a written process and everybody knows what's expected and everybody follows the rule and audit it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Eakins.
Okay? Thank you.
The next person to speak is Ms. Michelle Rohde.
Good evening, sirs. I am originally from Tennessee. I ran a rescue for 20 years. I pulled from pounds. I pulled from shelters. I have been where the animals were dead laying in the alley. I have been where people have shot them and left them running. I have pulled them in. I have come here 2 years ago. The first place I checked out was animal control. I wanted to know what kind of county we had here. I know that if we had a kill shelter here, which was high euthanasia, that most of the rescue groups would throw their hands up in the air and walk away because they didn't have time to find transportation for an animal, a foster home for an animal, so they won't help them. Your ET rate goes up. With being able to foster out the animals to different rescues, making sure they're real rescues, making sure the animals are spayed, neutered, all their vaccines, making sure they have been properly educated as to what kind of animal this is, what to expect from it. If you've got a dog that is not good with a cat, you're not going to give it to a rescue that has cats. You need to know that. This rescue does that. This shelter does that. This shelter is clean. I've never seen it when it wasn't. Yes, I've seen it full. Unfortunately. That means some of them didn't make it. But I have helped pull from this shelter and take some of the animals in and make sure they got homes. I have worked with Ivanhoe. I have worked with Bonnie. I know what they're doing, and they're doing it right. Let them do their job.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Dr. Janet Thompson.
I taught European history at TCC for 20 years, and I have been retired for 5 years. I also formed the first feral cat organization in this area called Friends of Gypsy back in 2003. We are not an adoption organization. If you know feral cats, you can socialize some of them and they'll become adoptable, but generally not. They bond with their caretaker and they're not transportable. However, we have assisted the animal shelter here, Bonnie and Ivanhoe, in every way we could between 2010 and 2012. We took a lot of adoptables out of the shelter. They were spayed, neutered, vaccinated, and microchipped. and sent on to either the Leon County Humane Society or to Animal Aid for adoption. So I'm here to speak in favor of everything they do. And I'm glad to hear that there are going to be some feral cat programs put in place here. You can't cut your numbers down without. And as several people have pointed out, the feral cat problem here is significant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Pat Rose. Ms. Pat Rose. Ms. Pat Rose. Ross, I mean. Excuse me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Ross. I'm a boring insurance broker. And unfortunately, I love y'all and I love rescue, but we have to come back to earth. Okay, when Chat was operating the rescue operations for the county, they provided liability insurance that covered the building that was occupied, all events that were attended. Ivanhoe just mentioned 35 events have been attended this year. Okay, since June. We're operating with no insurance. That's what that means right now, okay? When Chat was operating, we had insurance for all of these events, okay? If you're operating with rescues that are uninsured, you are insuring them, okay? You are the first line. My biggest concern, I guess, is the contract terms with the new rescues. Are there contracts with these rescues? Those contracts need to be solid as to who's responsible for what, and insurance is part of that picture, okay? Any 501c3 corporation that does business with animal control needs to have insurance and a contract. Without a contract, like I said, Wakulla County is their insurance company. I'm going to try and be briefer since you're on short time. Probably the biggest exposure are events and people transporting animals. If you're driving to Fanning Springs, you have an exposure with that vehicle.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Miss Heidi Dumb. Heidi Dumb. Thank you.
It's Gert.
Heidi Gert, and then
Yes.
Dumb. Right. Okay.
Hello. Thank you so much for letting me speak. My name is Dr. Heidi Gert. I am a veterinarian, and I guess you addressed some questions about the health of the animals. Bonnie has been very, very dedicated. I've never seen a person so dedicated and bring so many animals to me. And you talked also about having like one policy. What she does is, I think one policy would be a little bit difficult because each place that she sends the animals to requires something different. Sometimes there's a long list of things that they need to have parvo tests or some things that seem really a little bit outlandish. And other times it's very little. I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I know, all an animal really has to have is a rabies vaccine to be legal. So, I mean, that's, and then you also need to make sure that that animal is not a danger to the public. And they are very well trained to determine if an animal is dangerous. So as long as they have a rabies vaccine and they're not dangerous to the public, you've done the minimum. And now, when you sell an animal, it's a different story. There's a requirement of what kind of vaccines you have. But I don't really know if you're doing adoptions, if that's considered sale or not. I wouldn't know. But they have just done a wonderful job, and we provide a lot of service to them pretty much at cost because I have to pay my employees and everything. And she's just been really good. She'll come in and say, oh, I'm bringing in 6 dogs and they're going to Kansas or someplace, and she'll come in and I'm really busy and she'll sit and wait. And so we've worked quite well with her. And I work with the other rescue organizations as well, and then they have different requirements. So
Thank you, ma'am.
that's
Thank you.
what I
Miss Laura Bevan with the Humane Society.
Good evening. My name is Laura Bevan. I'm with the Humane Society of the United States, based out of Tallahassee, the Southern Regional Office. And Ivanhoe asked me to come and talk to you a little bit briefly, but mainly bring you some materials on the transport. I understand, the county is in a transition time right now, similar to what happened in Tallahassee many years ago, where the Humane Society ran the animal shelter there, and then at one point decided it was time for the county to do that. And whether you have another nonprofit group take over your adoption center, or you decide to do it yourself, I hope that you do choose to open back up that adoption center. I remember this county and was down here before you had animal control and trying to figure that out, so you have come a long way. But I did bring some materials on animal transport. I think that it is the wave of now. This was not done, 10, 20 years ago, but it is how people are reducing their euthanasia rate. It can be a problem if it's not being done right, but if it's being done correctly and there's agreements and each group is a little different, it can be a godsend. But the adoption center is a way for you to adopt into your own community and service your own community. So I hope you look at that also. But I'm here for any questions, and would love to be of any further assistance to your county as you move through this transitional time.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Okay, this will be our final speaker, Miss Erica Young. Erica Young.
Hi there, I'm Erica Young. I'm a graduate student at Florida State. I adopted my dog 7 years ago from a rescue, and she's been my companion ever since. She became a therapy dog, and I can tell you, I don't know if I would have got through the last 7 years without her. And in shutting down adoptions from the center, it's depriving people from that chance that I had with her. I'd like to read a letter that my mother wrote. She speaks way more eloquently than I do. Dear Commissioners, although I cannot be there at the workshop, I entreat you to avoid any logical fallacies in addressing the issue of animal services also functioning as an adoption center. I am concerned that your agenda makes it sound as though the options are simply thus: that all adoptions should cease, that the county will be burdened with enormous fees from these adoptions. This reductive reasoning stifles what is most needed, a discourse about how best to be stewards of the community by protecting the animals in our care. Although agendas are meant to be only a preview of topics discussed, please itemize how you arrived at the numbers for the increased cost you projected. This will allow those who, like you, are invested in the best outcomes for the community to decide if the fees are realistic, and if so, to find other ways to alleviate the costs. We are all on the same side, and we understand why there is a crisis of animal abuse in our nation. Dogs and cats starve on the streets, are traumatized in the shelter, and often die unwanted. Also, that greedy puppy mill operators can fatten their wallets. I believe that the next generation of children will grow up in America that does not allow this to happen. If you have children or grandchildren in the next generation, will you be able to tell them how you helped penalize those who abuse animals instead of further victimizing their animals? I believe that the board does want to treat animals ethically. However, I'm concerned that other options are not being considered. Has the board consulted with animal services in other counties to learn ways to operate as both an animal shelter and adoption agency?
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We're going to be brief, guys.
We're going to 7 minutes. There's one thing I wanted to say. This is I'm very supportive of animal control, and I'm very supportive of the adoption of animals. And I think the proof is in the numbers for animal control to go from at a high of over 60% euthanasia rate down to 21%. We're doing a lot of things right, and I'm very supportive, and I'm going to continue to support animal control. But at the same time, I want Chat to know that there's things that it seems like there's a new mission with Chat, and I think that new mission is something to support as well. you know, I want to give Chat the kudos as well for going in the direction that you're going as well. But I think every animal that can be adopted is one that didn't get euthanized, and I think that's a great thing. And I think the goal to strive for is 0%, you know. But we're not there yet, but we're a lot closer than we once were. And I just thank you for your efforts.
Basically, I would like to say that my compliments to this group of people. For whatever reason you're here, and we know why you're here. You show your support. You have let us understand how you feel, and we do understand that. My daughter is a vet, so I've supported animals forever with every way I can. I also support Ms. Carroll in what she's done. One thing about a county that makes it work really good is, generally speaking, when we don't hear anything about that particular department, that means it's doing a real good job. It's not, you're not hearing anything, so everything's running very smoothly. I just want Ms. Carroll to understand, if you decide to go left, I'll support you. If you go right, I'll support you. Whatever you do, you have my full support.
I'm going to go ahead and give we need some direction out of this workshop, I guess. My suggestion would be, let's proceed with what David is doing with the RFP, and I suggest we let David and Ivanhoe figure out how to run the animal shelter.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got closing. We'll close it out with Commissioner Thomas and Commissioner Casper.
Yeah, I'm going to just keep it short and agree with that, and I appreciate this is a tremendous show of support right here, and animal control as well as Chat. You guys have served our county well, and I recognize that, and we all owe you a debt of gratitude. And you know, the amount of feed and medical costs and things like that, volunteer labor, man, there's hardly a better volunteer labor force than I see right here. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going back to the three, and I want to say, you know, I haven't heard of one commissioner that says they want to do away with animal control. I haven't heard of one commissioner that said they want to euthanize more animals. I haven't heard of one commissioner that says we don't want to adopt more animals. I mean, that's not the purpose of why I brought this to the forefront to have a discussion. I want a discussion that there was a change. There was some reason why the county chose at one point in time to isolate itself from the adoption process. The sheriff chose to isolate himself from the adoption process. There's a liability question in there. There's a cost question in there. I think they have to be looked at.
I don't think they're proposing to adopt, though, are they? They're
well,
proposing
whatever it is, okay, whatever it is. What I'm suggesting is that I guess I disagree with you in that the policy of how that department should function should be directly determined by the board as an overview policy. The day-to-day activities, you know, we don't need to micromanage. We don't know what goes on in animal control most of the time, hardly ever, because we're not in that loop. I mean, how often do we, you know, concern ourselves with how many adoptions today or how many, you know, transports today?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I do spend a little of my time giving to this community and to both Wakulla County and Tallahassee. So you know, as far as a volunteer, I do my share of volunteer. I may not do it in your facility here, and I have done it in the past in that facility, okay? But that's my choice of where I volunteer. So my days are pretty well taken up. What I'm saying is that as a policy measure, not as the day-to-day running, but as a policy measure, this board should be involved in setting that direction. Once the direction is voted by the board, then the department runs, just like we set up policies in the fire department, just as we set up policies you know, this is who we are. We're the policy setter of our county.
Yes, Commissioner Kester, we are now moving into our regular board meeting time. I'd like to go ahead and close out the workshop. I thank everyone for coming here and speaking, and
Yeah.
well,
Do you have direction?
yeah,
We're, just to let you know, we've stayed within our ordinances that rule us. What we've done is ramped up the efforts to try and get the way our program was working. Our euthanasia rate was too high. We ramped that up. The main, which was sending to rescues. Each rescue, this is the same network of rescues that Leon County uses, Franklin County uses, Jefferson County, Gulf County. All of these rescues are vetted. We're in the process right now of bringing these contracts up. In fact, we looked at some of them today. We're going to be redoing some of those, putting some more language in those. We still have some ways to go. RFP will be coming out for here very shortly for the adoption services at our shelter. If we get responses to that, great. If we don't, then we'll change course and we'll come back, and that is a big policy change that we will need to come to you guys and say, because there will be cost to that, but we're not sure that even the program that we've got running today is running smoothly, so we may not even change that, but we've got to work our way through that. And you know, I must applaud Ivanhoe is we did make that change. We were and I'm sorry it didn't work out with chat, but at the end of the day, they made a decision, and I'm not going to back up. They made a decision, and they went with their decision, and we got to go now. And now it's time for us to go and move on down the road, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we will continue to do. And yes, I'll be bringing that back to you guys, and I have direction.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna go ahead and close out the workshop. I thank everybody for coming. I'm gonna say it's about 6:02 now. I'm gonna say roughly in about 6:05 or 6:07 we'll go ahead and begin with the regular board meeting.
That's right. There is another
Thank you.
hot subject on the.
Yes.